Hello, America. It's Plastic EP here from Australia. Yep, it's the guy from Australia. And guess what? I welcome the one and only amazing Stuart Hersh live from New York. You're live there. You're live.
I'm
How are you,
yes,
Stuart?
yes. Thankfully, I'm alive in New York. Yes,
How you going?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you? Since we talked last, you've been busy,
I'm,
huh?
I'm good, but you know what I say to you? How you going, mate? How you going?
How you doing? How you doing?
Hey, you know what? You know when I showed you those skippy things?
Yes.
I actually got an extra plate that I was meant to show you that I didn't show you.
Ah, I thought you were going to send me one. Oh,
No, I can't, but you want to see the extra plate?
yes. Go ahead.
Okay, hang on. You just keep talking for a minute while I get
Then
it.
we're going
Keep
to have to
talking.
both sing the theme song if you do this now.
No, just keep talking for a sec.
Okay. I'll sing the theme song. It was on Channel 11, WPIX in New York in the 60s, late 60s, maybe early 70s.
I'm back. I'm back. Now tell me, how rare is this? And this I wanted to
Save
show
me.
you, so
Save
it's worth
me.
looking
Save
at.
me.
Look at
What
that.
happened? Whoa, I love that. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, because it's colored like the color. It's got color, and it's by Bessemer, and little kids used to eat off it. So I wanted to show you that one because it's not all white.
That's awesome. Yeah.
All right. Now, with the introduction, I want you to tell you with our budget, we're spending so much money that the introduction, I had a hand write it here. A lot of people don't see things. And so what it said, it was a 9 o'clock interview because it got delayed. And I wrote out the intro just for you, just for the fans out there. Because we've got to do
So
a bit of trivia. Now,
you've got you're there in the morning, huh?
yeah, it's
Is it
9 o'clock. Don't worry about it. I just rolled out of bed. That's a great
oh,
thing about doing it. And actually, I've moved up and we've spent a bit of money, got a brand new backdrop, and I've got a brand new white chair there. Look at that.
oh, nice. Nice.
I've got the celebrities coming left, right, and center. They all want to be interviewed by me now. So that's really great.
That's good. That's
Now,
good.
I want to tell you, I happened to go on the internet last night. So what do I see? I see this live dude driving in a car around New York City at 3 a.m. And I'm thinking to myself, who's this guy, right? And I look up and it's your name. Right? And I go, what is he doing? And he's doing this live tour. I'll go down. See, I don't understand the streets in New York. You got to
Right.
explain it to me. I've been there, but it's like 59th Street, 58th Street, number 8th Street. I don't get it. Do you go up to like 59th Streets 1 to 59 and you stop? I just don't get it. Explain it to me.
Well, it's if you're from New York, then that's why I was calling out the streets as I was getting to them so that you would know where you were. But and even if you weren't, I mean, you could see what's going on those particular blocks. But yeah, I got, we have this thing going on where they're all telling us to stay home because of this terrible thing going on outside. And so I called the New York City Police Department and I cleared myself. I said, hey, can I drive around in New York City? Or is there like a curfew? Can you not be on the streets? Will I get ticketed, fined? Do I have to show anything? They said, no. They said, just you could drive around all you want. So the last night was the third time I did that. And I got in my car and I put on my Facebook Live on the window. I duct taped it on there. And I was reading people's things that they were writing as I was driving. And it was like taking a drive through New York City with all of my friends. The thing that's great is New York City is just so magic and electric that even now, you get to Times Square and it's still all lit up and stuff, but there's no people on the streets. There always are people on the streets. They call it the city that never sleeps. And unfortunately, we're going through a little snooze period right now. But I was safe in my car. I was following the rules. I went from my home into my car, locked the doors, and did not get out of my car till I returned home.
Do you know what's funny? I think I joined the tour around Broadway and then we're going down towards the Empire State Building. And then you go, I think I'll hook back around and that. And then you showed the Brill Building. All I saw was lights because I've been to the Brill Building and it's all gold from outside with windows. That's the one.
Oh yeah, but what? Oh, you saw the reflection probably of the gold
I
building.
couldn't see anything. So you're giving this tour where you see nothing, right? It's dark. All I saw in the whole tour was headlights. You're talking there's this place on the left-hand side, the right-hand side, and all I'm looking at is headlights and lights, and you cannot see anything. I just thought I'd tell you. You cannot see nothing. Don't do it at 3 a.m. Do it during the day. You're going, here's this, here's that, and I'm looking, and all I'm seeing is lights. I was blinded by the lights. I'm that Stuart. Yeah. I don't want to cut your thunder, but I was going to crack a joke that I got an email from Mrs. Berkowitz who's 98 years old, who remembers you from the deli.
What?
You hear what I said? I'll say it again. All right. I wanted to crack a joke that a fan had sent an email to me for you.
Yeah. Oh.
It was Mrs. Berkowitz, who's 98 years old, who remembers you from the local deli down the road.
Okay. Is that a joke? Is that real?
That was meant to be a joke, but I didn't want to use it. But
I'm trying to think if I know anybody by that name.
No, it was meant to be a gag. You're not meant to know anybody.
I gotcha.
All right, great. Now listen, let's get back on in New York. I've got to tell you a story. Okay.
Tell me.
Here's me and my wife in New York City, and I'm pretty sure the place was the Sheraton, right? It's the one that goes from Times Square in a straight line. You go to the straight line.
Right.
And what happens is, the great thing about New York is food places are open 24 hours.
True.
Look, there's a pizza place. There was an Irish pub around the corner.
Yeah.
There was a hamburger place that was really good, right?
Uh-huh.
And anyway, my wife and I, we decided to go for a walk.
Yes.
So we're going by Australian time on our watches, but when we came out, I estimate it was 2 a.m. in the morning.
Uh-huh.
So we get off that main street that runs straight where New York, where the square is. What's that called? Broadway, son? What's it called?
Broadway, 7th Avenue, Broadway, yeah.
Okay, as I said, I don't get these avenues. But anyway, my wife and I take this little 2 a.m. tour on the side streets. And there's people coming out with rubbish bins. And I said to my wife, listen, I think we're off the track here. Let's go back to the main road in case we get mugged or robbed or something, okay? I mean, I don't know. I've never been there before.
I know everybody thinks when you come to New York, you're going to get mugged and robbed.
Well, no one knows nothing because I'm from Australia, okay? So anyway, it's not like it's not like I'm riding a kangaroo down the street or something, right?
If you were riding a kangaroo down the street, they wouldn't notice you anyways in New York.
I don't think so. They notice me at all. Anyway, what happens is I'm in the Broadway, as I said, and my wife, we've lingered now far away. I see this lady on a horse and carriage. And then I'm thinking the Beatles came in 1964 and I've seen them on the horse and carriage and they went for a ride. And it's custom that if you're in New York that you have to get on a horse and carriage. So I'm thinking horse and carriage ride. And my wife is 200 miles down the street. And I go up to the lady in the horse and carriage and I made up this story to her, right? This is the story. I go, how you going? This and that. She started talking. I said, how much for a tour? She goes, oh, I can do the $180 Central Park tour. And I look at my watch, it's 2 a.m. and I go, is that the Las Vegas tour? I go, I can't do that. Look, I'm scared. I'm going to go to New York at 2 a.m. with a horse and cart. I said, no, I don't want to do that. I said, listen, see my wife down there 400 miles down the road? She hates horses. And she's yelling at me to catch up with her. But I wanted to ask you, can you take us around the block near Times Square? Can you do that and then take us to a hotel? She goes, sure, I can do that for you. That'll cost you $80. I said, listen, it's the end of the night. You look tired. The horse looks tired. You have to go home and feed the horse. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you $35 US. Can you do it? She turned around and answered, you want 1970 prices? I go, yes, I do. And then she goes,
that's a great story.
And then she looks at me like I'm stupid, right? That's the second part. And I said, listen, I'm happy to do that. $35, that's my budget US. Yes. And I don't tip. That's another thing I told her. Because everywhere you go, you tip, right? I said, look, give you $35. She goes, all right. So I yell at my wife to come, which takes her half an hour to come. And she goes, what do you want? This is my wife now, coming up to me, the horse and cart. What do you want? I go, I've organised a beautiful horse and carriage ride just to go around for a minute. Will you come? Yeah. Okay. She came on the horse and car. Lady takes us just around the block and stops.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why did she stop? And she gets out of the car and she goes, give me your camera. I'll take a photo of the square behind you. And I said, I gave it to her. She took 2 snaps. She took us back to the hotel. I paid her $35. I look at the photos. They're pitch black. You can't see nothing. What? I came back to Australia and I sort of lightened them with a program you can see. I mean, that's a story that you'll never forget. Come on.
Of course.
Anyway, getting back on track now. I've got a surprise for you.
Pitch black, though, you know.
I've got a surprise for you,
Stuart. Uh-oh.
I'm going to show some photos, and I want you to talk us through the photos.
Okay, sure.
Here we go.
Okay.
And I've got to tell you, the people of Australia love these 2 people. All right? Here they go.
Ah, yeah. So that's that was taken at Chiller Theater Expo a couple of years ago, and I did a Love Boat reunion. And in the Love Boat reunion, I had Bernie Kopell, who played Doc. So I also brought in Barbara Feldon, and there's Barbara Feldon and Bernie Kopell. And a man came in and he had an original shoe phone, and that's me holding the shoe phone in that picture.
I thought that was your shoe.
No, it's got a dial on it. Yeah.
No, that's the joke. All right.
Oh, I'm not getting it today. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. Here we go. Next photo.
Yes, that's Carol Spinney. Gosh, what a wonderful guy. Recently passed away. Carol Spinney was the original Oscar the Grouch, as you see in that picture, and Big Bird. He was the original guy. What's that?
I got to stop you there because that photo there, everyone in Australia is going, oh, what a great photo.
That was taken on the set. Photo. That was taken on the set of Sesame Street. That's Sesame Street in the background there.
That's a big photo.
Yeah.
Now let's move to the next one, which I know you're a big fan of this person.
Yes. So how I met Carol Spinney, I met him through this wonderful man that I grew up watching on TV named Frank Hersh, who was the original Bozo the Clown, the first nationally syndicated Bozo the Clown. And he was in New York, LA, and that's me and Frank. Frank was one of the nicest, kindest people I've ever known. And look, I was growing up. I was 5 years old. I saw Bozo on TV. Bozo was like my first friend. I mean, let alone real friends. I think Bozo was my first friend, and it was him. And to grow up and be able to be real friends with him was absolutely amazing.
I'm a big fan. Believe me, as I said to you, Bozo was huge down here. Here's another one.
Wait, I got something I want to show you. Hang on.
All right, show me. No worries.
Okay. I just noticed I had this. Okay.
Just in time.
Yes, this is a Bozo.
Look at that. That's unbelievable. And that's an original one.
Now look. See what it says here? It says, my favorite manager, your circus pal, Frank Bozo Hersh, to Stuart. Isn't that great?
That's fantastic, that Bozo. Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something to be proud of. Okay, next one.
You know what? I got to tell you real quick. When I first,
all right, tell me.
When I first found Frank, I wrote an email to him, and I started it off by saying, I don't know how complimentary this sounds, but you're my favorite Bozo.
Oh, that's nice. Now, you know who these people are. Let's go through this.
We have a mutual thing. We don't laugh at each other's jokes. Okay. This is Leave It to Beaver. This is Jerry Mathers and Tony Dow, and they were reunited again at Chiller Theater Expo. And it was their 60th reunion for them. Leave It to Beaver now is over 60 years strong, and it's never been off television. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. I still watch it here.
Yep, absolutely.
Right.
That's Abe Vigoda, and Abe Vigoda was Fish on Barney Miller, and he was also in The Godfather, and I mean he was He was a great, great comedian, great character actor. I'm still friends with his daughter, Carol. And I brought him out for his last 2 public appearances, and they were at Chiller, the same way he came in to do pictures and autographs with the fans. And in that shot, I said, hey, Abe, I said, he was 94 years old. I said, Abe, let's do a peace sign. I like to do peace signs. So he does his peace sign like this. He didn't know what he was doing, but it's a funny shot.
That's funny. Right, now, I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of the banana splits that came out in 69 or 68, and it was a big TV show here in Australia. I want you to tell me a little bit about the reunion, because that sounds fascinating at Chiller Theatre.
Those are the original guys. Those are the original banana splits. And those are the guys that were inside the costumes. Now, going from left to right, that's Terrence Winkless, who is also known as Terrence Henry in the credits on the Banana Split show. He played Bingo, the chimp. Yeah. Okay. In the middle there, that's Robert Townsend and Robert Towers. I'm sorry, Robert Towers. And Robert Towers played Snorky. Okay. The elephant. Yeah. And then that's Drooper, and that's Anne Withrow, who is formerly Dan Winkless, who was Terry's brother. And those are the original people that were in those costumes that did all that banana split stuff that you saw. And it was
their first young men, because I've seen some film on the net where in their half costumes, having a drink or unbelievable. I saw some photos on the internet, and it showed them in their costumes at the studio, and they were half dressed in the costume.
Those photos were from Anne's collection. She took them back on the set of doing a cereal commercial back then. Nobody ever saw those pictures before, but when we do appearances, and we will be doing, if everything clears up, we will be doing the end of August in Colorado Springs at the Colorado Springs Comic-Con, and we will be doing early November, the first week of November at the Rhode Island Comic-Con. I will have the 3 original banana splits there, and I will have Jerry Mathers and Tony Dow there, so you can come and meet those guys in person and take pictures with them and get their autographs.
That is unbelievable. That sounds like a great one. Now.
Okay, 13 years old, and I called up Mo Howard, Larry Fine, and Joe Dorita, known as Mo, Larry, and Curly Joe, the Three Stooges. A year after that, I went to California after they had sent me the thank you letters. I sent them thank you letters. They sent me return thank you letters, and they had their addresses on them. And I went out to California to visit my uncle. I was 14 years old in those pictures. I just drove to their addresses and knocked on their doors, and they were so nice, and they took those pictures with me.
That's beautiful. Now, this guy here, I know who it is, and he's very big in the Ruttles and the Bonzo band.
Yes. Neil, gosh, what a sweet man. He just passed recently, so unexpectedly. I was talking to him 2 weeks before he passed, and we were talking about new plans for him to come back to the New York area. Now, he had come 2 years earlier, and I took him out. I took him to the Fest for Beatles fans, formerly known as Beatlefest. And I also booked him in some places in New York City and in New Jersey. One was the Cutting Room, and one was the Victor Vault. And we would put a band behind him. In the case of the Cutting Room, it was the band from the Beatles convention called Liverpool. Great bunch of guys, incredible musicians. And they learned all the Ruddle stuff. And we brought them on. And what did we credit the show as? Neil Innes and the Fake Ruddles. Okay, that's what Neil wanted to call it. But he was responsible for all the music in the Ruddles. He did all of those parodies. They were all his. And throughout the years, it's gotten a little bit misconstrued. Eric, I think, took a little bit of credit on that music. It was all Neil's music. Okay, it was all Neil's music. Neil was 100% responsible for the music of the Ruddles.
Fantastic. Now, the Beach Boys on tour. Tell me about this. And where are you exactly? At the front, is it?
Yes, I'm right there in the front seat with Jan Berry from Jan and Dean. And at 18 years old, I was instrumental in making the phone calls to get Jan and Dean back together again. And I got Jan and Dean back together in New York for Murray the K, who was doing a Brooklyn Fox reunion show. That's me and Jan and Dean right there. And then I was offered to come on the tour with them and the Beach Boys. And for 18 years old, man, this was a dream for me. And I was sitting in that picture. I'm sitting with a recorder that I brought along, and I would play Jan the music tracks to his songs, and he would learn them. He had the lyric sheet in front of him, even though he had recorded them and wrote them. You know, Jan had gone through an accident where he suffered extensive brain damage and was in a coma for years. And God bless him, he was able to come out of that, get back on stage with Dean, and they went through a whole second phase for years of Jan and Dean up until Jan's passing. If you could go back to that Beach Boys shot, I'll tell you one more thing about it. I don't know how easy that is.
It's easy.
Okay, yeah. So that's me and Jan Berry in the front seat. Right behind Jan there, that's Al Jardine. And right across from us, that's Carl Wilson and Brian Wilson talking together. And right behind Carl, that's Dean's head right there.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
have you got a story from there? I just got to know a little bit more about the Beach Boy tour. Now, I'm just saying, did Brian go on that tour?
Yes. That was Brian in that picture in the bus.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to tell, but the Beach Boys are great, and it's about their music. You know, you can wake up, you might not be feeling that good or have a bad day. You put the Beach Boys on, you start singing, you feel good. That's what it is. It's really great music, and those guys are so smart. And this is before the Beatles. They figure out we do the California sound. Then they figure out the people in the Midwest haven't got beaches, so they go for the cars. So now they're selling music for the beach, for the girls, for the California sound, and then they're doing all the songs for the cars. Now that's marketing. The Beatles couldn't do the cars.
You may want to check a little bit of the music history on that, because Jan and Dean kind of originated that sound.
Before Dead Man's Curve.
Before they got out there, and then Jan and Dean recorded a version of Barbara Ann in that same style that is known as the Beach Boys style, which they later recorded on the Beach Boys Party album, and Dean Torrance sang lead together with Brian on their version. But Jan and Dean did Barbara Ann before that. Jan and Dean, were recording artists from the 50s on. The Beach Boys came in the early 60s. And then Jan wrote Surf City, their biggest hit, with Brian Wilson.
Yep.
And Jan and Dean did Little Old Lady from Pasadena, which was also about a little old lady driving a car, racing a car. And I loved the Beach Boys, but I loved Jan and Dean because Jan and Dean had this comedy in their music and this humor in their music. And I really, really enjoyed that.
I saw them hosting a show. I think it was at the Apollo. It was like a wild show from the early 60s, and they were skateboarding into this big stadium to present the show. Was that the Apollo?
That was called the Tammy Show.
Yeah, that's it. That's a great special.
Teenage American Music Industry, something like that. I'm not sure what Tammy exactly stood for, but yeah, it was a full show with the Beach Boys, and everybody was on that. Chuck Berry and everybody was on that. And Jan and Dean were the hosts of that show. So they came out.
I saw that, but as I said, it's good that you put in perspective that the Beach Boys were that the Jan and Dean were like first, and then came along the Beach Boys.
Right, and I'll give you a great example of that. Jan and Dean did a song called "Sidewalk Surfing." Okay, grab your board and go sidewalk surfing with me. Don't be afraid to try the newest sport around. And it's Catch a Wave. It's the same melody. It's the same structure. And so, they crossed over a lot. And there were Beach Boys singing on Jan and Dean songs and Jan and Dean singing on Beach Boy songs.
That's a story in itself, to go on tour with them as a young man. I mean, it must have been wild. I mean, considerably wild. Awesome.
And when Jan and Dean played Three River Stadium on their own with the Beach Boys, People Magazine came there and did a story on them. And that shot in the bus was one of the outtakes from the People Magazine sessions. This wonderful rock and roll photographer named Rayanne Rubenstein. and she took all these photos for that story, and it's a great article.
Now here's another artist who's huge. Watch.
Ah, yes, Weird Al Yankovic. Weird Al Yankovic. I mean, he's the king of parody songs. Okay, originated, probably the most famous guy before him was Alan Sherman back in the 60s, who did Camp Granada. Hello, Mata. Hello, Fada. Okay, and then Weird Al came along and he started parodying like all of these songs, today's music. He was discovered by Dr. Demento, who is a novelty DJ who is syndicated all over the world. And he used to send Dr. Demento tapes that he would record in his bathroom at his college. And one of those songs was called My Bologna, which was a takeoff on My Sharona. And yeah, that's me and Al there when I brought him into Chiller. He made a face and I made a face. So
it's two good faces. I like that. Yeah.
So I'll tell you something funny. I had met Al's drummer, John Bermuda Schwartz, and he took me to meet Al, and I remember meeting Al for the first time face to face, and I said, Al, hi. I said, I'm a big fan of yours, and I shook his hand, and I said, you know, I started on the Dr. Demento show too. I had a song called Disco Toilet, and he said, oh, well then let me shake your hand, and it was great. Al is one of the nicest, kindest, sweetest guys in the business. He really is, and smart, really smart.
Here's the last photo now. I love this photo, okay?
Yeah. Okay. So me and Al, I brought Weird Al back to Chiller. I had him there twice. And the second time, Alice Cooper was one of the guest stars there. And keep that photo up because I want to show you something. We went in. Alice wanted Al to come into his to his room. They closed off the room where people were going in to meet him. And it was just us and him and his manager. And we went in there during his lunch break, and we took that picture. If you notice on the wall behind us, it says no photos, which makes that picture even better.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's only a small section of your celebrity photos. I could be here all year showing all the photos. So, I mean, we had to select ones that we liked, and I'll tell you what, that's a nice cross section of photos. I mean, I really enjoyed that. Nick, you got to tell me some more stories, all right? Because you're a man that's out and about, especially in New York at night and all that. But you know what? I've got to hear some other stories about some celebrities. Just give me a few more stories.
Okay. Wow. Did I mention the Harlem Globetrotters last time? Meadowlark Lemon?
No.
Oh, well, the Harlem Globetrotters are probably the most famous comedy basketball team of all time, and they were formed in 1927, and they went out there to play, real basketball, formed by a guy named Abe Saperstein out of Chicago, and then when something went wrong once during a game, all of a sudden they realized they could get away with some humor, and that they were tiring. So if they could do some comedy shtick, then they could all take breaks while they were doing these comedy routines, and then they would come back and do their stuff. Well, eventually they went on to be this amazing family show. And Meadowlark Lemon and Curly Neal were the two top stars when I was growing up. And they had a Globetrotter cartoon show also on Saturday mornings. But I became friends with Meadowlark from the first time I walked into a locker room in Madison Square Garden when they were playing. Right before the game, I walked into the locker room. My friend Bobby Hunter, who was a Globetrotter, brought me in, and I met them all there. And I continued to be friends with Meadowlark for my entire life. Meadowlark passed away just a few years ago at 83 years old. And it's kind of a bittersweet story. He hadn't been with the Globetrotters in years. He had started his own team for years, and he made a deal finally with the Globetrotters to return at 83. And they were going to have him and Curly come out in their uniforms during games and surprise people during the games. 90th anniversary of the Globetrotters. Meadowlark was supposed to do press. He lived in Arizona. He packed his bags. He put everything by the front door. He laid down and he never woke up.
I'm sick.
And he was a sweet, sweet, sweet man. He was a minister. He went out there and just, I mean, to be his friend was an honor and a pleasure, and one of the greatest comedians and basketball players ever. He played 18,000 basketball games. How many basketball players can say that?
Not many. Now, I've got to tell you, Stuart, we're going to wrap it up shortly, but I've got to tell you, here in Australia, two giant TV shows that are embedded in Australian culture in the early 70s are The Partridge Family.
Yes.
And The Brady Bunch.
Ah.
Now, those two shows are embedded in Australian culture, just so you know.
Oh, here too. Here too. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was friends with Danny Bonaducci from The Partridge Family, and he was a funny guy. He got a little. He went into radio, and he kind of, gave Howard Stern a little run for his money at times, because he was very sarcastic, outspoken, humorous, a funny guy. And when I saw him, it was just a couple of years ago. Somebody brought him into Chiller, and I hadn't seen him for like, oh gosh, I don't know, 20 years, 15 years, something like that. And I went up to him. They were walking him right past me, and I said, Danny. I go, Danny, Stuart Hersh. And he just looks at me. He goes, Stuart Hersh. Did I know you from the 70s, the 80s? I said, no, the 80s, the 80s.
That's
great
funny.
guy. What a great guy. And David, I had a chance to, see him. You couldn't get too close to David at times, but he was a wonderful performer. Wonderful performer.
I've got to say, Stuart,
as far as the Brady's, I'm sorry?
It's been my pleasure. We'll have to wrap it up there because we're at 32 minutes, and you've got to understand one thing about the net, right?
Yes.
And my young son told me, he said, Dad, you do these great interviews, but sometimes they might go a bit long. He goes, if I'm going to watch it, I'm only watching the first 5 minutes. And I said, listen, son, if you watch the first 5 minutes, that's okay. But I said, there's a lot of people in lockdown. They got time to watch the full 33 minutes. So don't worry about it. Anyway, it's been my pleasure again. So from Plastic EP, and I'll let you take us out, Stuart. Say goodbye to everybody.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for your time, Plastic EP. And thank you for watching. And I hope you guys enjoyed my little stories. And peace and love.
Peace and love. And it's been my pleasure. I love having a laugh with you, Stuart. All right.
So much fun.
See you, Stuart. Just hang on there.
Now.
All right.
Sure.